For the last 20 years, I've been engaged very intensively in meditation and all kinds of spiritual practices and practices of self-knowledge. Yet, I also have a basic technical education. For a long time, I could not stop thinking about how these inner, subjective experiences could be combined with what we can crudely call real-world things into something tangible, something that could be touched, felt, and heard. Such a breakthrough would provide proof of what was happening within. We've worked on all kinds of projects in our time. An idea for creating a search system, neural networks, and big data processing within the framework of our projects. And one fine day, the idea came up, why not try using modern technology to reach the subconscious and human intuition? Everyone has a cell phone in their pocket, after all. And in essence, a cell phone is a very powerful computer. It's connected to the internet using fast broadband, and each individual is already a walking neural network, one with fantastic potential at that. So, this was the idea. Why not put the question in such a way that the conscious mind would not get involved? But how can this be done? We started thinking, looking for people who were working on it. And it turned out that there actually were studies. Studies on intuition had been carried out in the Soviet Union and in the United States, too. That was when we came up with a methodology whereby you show someone an image that means nothing to his conscious mind, but at the same time, the subconscious is aware of some information in the image and responds to it. We talked to psychologists and they said, okay, no problem. Neurobiologists said the same. Only they said, make it as simple as you can and include just 3 possible answers. Ask the questions in a way that allows a yes-no answer, or a when, or a how. When I heard about the idea, I must admit that I was a bit shocked. For me, a person with an engineering background, it was not easy to agree to take part in a project based on psychology, consciousness, and the unconscious. Freud, Jung, various words that did not resonate with me. But I still have that curious child in me, and he said in his curious way, why not give it a try? And for me, this project really has been a great big experiment that I want to conduct. An experiment aimed at finding out how the subconscious works, what we can do with it, and what it can give to us. The first time I heard about the Oris app from Alexander was 5 years ago. That is, he told me the basic idea at the time. At that point, it caused me a certain amount of confusion. No, confusion's not the right word. I felt skepticism. First of all, I doubted whether it would be possible to work on a project like that and remain independent. I do not mean independent in the sense of not giving anyone the data, but independent with regard to protection from any kind of power structures that might certainly not like the prospect of a private business doing that kind of research. So in that respect, I was very skeptical. As far as the opportunity to apply intuition was concerned, I approved wholeheartedly because of my own life experience and my experience working in big business, where decisions are often taken on an intuitive basis. I was intrigued because a necessary and sufficient volume of information did not exist in this area. And in the financial world in general, having intuition, good intuition, means being successful. So I was of course in favor of trying to learn how we can use people's intuition correctly in life and in business. But when it came to how the project could be made a reality, I was very skeptical. That continued until I encountered blockchain technology. We realized that this technology could solve all of our problems. It would solve the problem of indestructibility because the blockchain gave us decentralization. On the other hand, we had a means of account. We could release our own cryptocurrency, which would circulate within the system, and we could use this cryptocurrency to pay people who provided answers. People who asked questions could also pay using it. People want to receive a payment or a reward in one form or another for everything they do. And the blockchain technology has allowed businesses to launch their own cryptocurrencies. In itself, any public blockchain will fail without rewards and without participants in the system who are being paid for their willingness to store this information and allow this blockchain to work. And it is easiest if this payment is made using the same cryptocurrency that the blockchain itself uses. And the third problem that we solve is the problem of trustworthiness. Since the blockchain stores data in a form that makes changing it impossible, and changing something in a public blockchain is very expensive, we always have a database from which we can prove that a particular question was asked. A set of various answers was given. In other words, we can always provide the facts of what happened. It is quite a simple thing, in fact, which is based on a mathematical function known as a hash. What does the function do? It accepts as input a sequence of digits of any length. All computers work with digits, and text too can be represented in the form of digits. In the ends, we obtain a long string of numbers, and the function processes it. It then outputs a sequence of digits of a standard length for the given function. Now, this is what is important about it. We cannot get our original long text back from this string of digits, and, in principle, we do not need it. If we keep a copy of the long text stored, we can calculate this long hash function and give it to everyone else who might be interested in checking up on us in the future. After some time has passed, if these people want to be sure that we have not changed anything in the record, they can read what we have recorded, calculate the little hash function, recall the hash function they calculated before, and compare them. If they are the same, it means we have not changed anything in the text. The properties of the hash function are such that if we changed even one period in the text, the function would give a very different result. This means that people who want to verify what we're doing do not need to store our whole text, but only a little fragment, the hash function. Initially, when we began this project, our goal was extremely simple. We wanted to create a product and make money from it. But while we were actually creating it, putting together our team of professionals, once we were all engaged in the process, which was quite a lengthy one, we did not achieve success all at once. It was not as though someone had waved a magic wand, but gradually, it became clear that we were not the ones managing the project was managing us. As it turned out, the goals and objectives of this project were much broader. If you ask me, the objective is to help people create conscious awareness. It's also to show people how they can learn from continual contact with intuitive information in order to trust themselves more, to listen to themselves more and better, to listen to their own honest thoughts, and to become more self-aware. In essence, over a certain period of time, I can boldly assert that the app itself will train people to actually rely on their own intuition. I think the main objective is to discover a way of accessing intuitive information. This access is slightly veiled. That is, we encounter intuition on what looks at first sight like a platform for the exchange of goods and money. Working within the system involves making payments. And someone who enters into that kind of relationship also receives support. I think it's a very beautiful solution when people are supported by intuition. It is awesome. But behind the simple and direct relationship of, I give you this, you give me that, there's a lot of depth. Once people become aware of the power of questions, and the power of questions asked to a large number of people, then something interesting begins. Why do we go to the theater, or to the movies, or to an exhibition? Why do we go to concerts? We want spectacles. We want to experience some specific emotions. And we also want to obtain some kind of intellectual satisfaction. But it seems to me that these are only external factors that are connected with art. There's another facet that's hidden from us. It's still there, even though we cannot immediately perceive it. When we see some picture, when we watch something in the theater or on the movie screen, there is a moment when something within us responds. We do not know where this impulse comes from. We just feel it. The Oris project, and specifically the Oris app, has two facets as well. One facet is the attempt to satisfy specific external wishes, to receive answers to questions related to something external. But during that process itself, we suddenly feel something within us responding. In other words, we start to hear our inner voice. And in this case, I think one of the Oris app's objectives is to create a tool, a way of helping people to hear themselves, and in particular, their own inner voice. For a long time, there was no satellite television. This was because the noise from the transistors themselves was stronger than the useful signal. Until low-noise transistors appeared, it was impossible to transmit useful information from satellites to ordinary, domestic, small-diameter satellite dishes. The signal would get lost in the noise from the transistors. But as soon as low-noise transistors did appear, residential buildings became festooned with satellite dishes. Our app is analogous to a low-noise transistor, allowing people to tune out their mental noise and listen to themselves and their own intuition. In principle, the modern world operates at ultra-high speeds. The coefficient of success is the speed at which you can make the right decisions. Advising others is very easy, but making the correct choice for yourself is a different matter. All kinds of big doubts start to gnaw at us when we are deciding on our own behalf. The app can be a beautiful solution for this very problem. You ask a question, and the whole world helps you. That means the strength of the whole planet can be brought to bear on the decision you take. But you also get asked questions, meaning that there are other people who need your opinion. That is why I think that the app's functionality is really amazing. It helps you reach an agreement with the world. But each time you do so, it also boosts your own importance. The world needs your intuition and what you have inside you. It's valuable. In fact, the world does not just value it, it's prepared to pay for it. You can get real money for it. I think this is a tremendous idea. It will be assessed the way it deserves. I'm confident that it will be successful. The Oris project is a new tool for communicating over the internet by technological means. People use the tool to communicate over the web, but it's different in that the human factor does not get lost. Rather, it comes to the fore. Humanity has always somehow had this idea that intuition is not that important. And I know this from my own experience because I myself do not quite trust my intuition. I think it's time to put that idea behind us. We should stop trusting what we're told by others and start listening to ourselves. The world needs to be moved forward, and if we do not listen to ourselves, the world will still move, it just will not be going forward. Our app is also a big scientific experiment, because we have assembled a large user base, and we can therefore quite calmly ask questions and obtain answers. We are accumulating statistics. We can process these statistics using ordinary, traditional methods that are used by everybody else, and we will obtain a result that way. A survey where a large number of people answer a large number of questions is certainly a scientific experiment that touches on statistical distributions. That is, if we follow the existing model, then ideally the distribution will be 50-50. The number of correct and incorrect answers will be evenly distributed. That is at least the expected outcome according to the theory. Nobody has yet confirmed it in practice. And from the scientific viewpoints, this project is undoubtedly absolutely scientific, absolutely new, and interesting. Because if we obtain a result that's different from what the theory would lead us to expect, 50-50, then it will need to be investigated from all angles by mathematicians and statisticians, as well as sociologists and psychologists. Because the distribution of an element that ideally includes practically all of humanity, or at least some significant part of it, will unquestionably yield enormously significant scientific material to be studied. Since when people ask and answer questions, they reveal all the points that interest them, we will be able to gather information about them that shows all their inclinations and all their interests. The information will then be of interest to all marketing specialists and pollsters. People who conduct market research the way that it is done today will be interested in this information. Currently, as a rule, a sample group representing various strata of the population is assembled, and that group is then surveyed. Our market researchers make use of the potential offered by Facebook, Vkontakte, and Instagram. Information is gathered, and market researchers then usually obtain a certain data set. But the problem is that nobody can guarantee that it is very reliable or correct. The situation will be different with our service. Since we will interest all our participants with feedback about the information we receive and about their psychological type, they will have an interest in providing us with true answers that will be used to assemble their values profile. We will also provide this information about their values profile as feedback, and if they want to develop themselves in any way, to change, they can do it using publicly available sources from the internet. For us, meanwhile, this information will be very valuable because all this information will be stored on the blockchain and it will be trustworthy and accurate. Any market researcher or pollster will be able to check that the profiles are authentic. These people really exist, and they have really been answering our questions. In addition, they will be able to break the respondents down instantly by age, sex, or region. They will be able to use the data to perform various surveys, and it will be clear to our network members that there's no sense in their trying to deceive either themselves or future clients, because it will be an opportunity for them to earn money. As I have already said, our app needs the blockchain. But nowadays, a lot of specialists working with this technology are saying that public blockchains, to which we are trusting everything, have problems. The problem is that they do not scale well. That is, as the number of transactions and the quality of information we store on the blockchain grow, the cost of the information and the cost of each transaction also grow. So, we decided to take an integrated approach to the use of technology, and we divided it into two parts. The public blockchain will be used for mutual accounting between members of the system, since financial relations need to be very trustworthy. And users will only trust something as strong as a public blockchain to exchange money. We will use our own non-public blockchain to store the second part, which will directly contain our data, all questions, all answers, and the whole history of the system's functioning. Of course, we do realize that information on a non-public blockchain is entirely at the disposal of its owner, and the outside world will not necessarily trust such information. So we will use another method to ensure the trustworthiness of the data. The checksums of the key blocks from our blockchain will be placed on other public blockchains. But it will not be Bitcoin. It will be Ethereum, Wave, and various other blockchains that may be set up in the future. We're not setting a limit to that list at this point, because in principle, we could use all of them at once. It would not be too expensive, and it would powerfully raise the level of trust in our system. This is because it would always be possible to verify that we had not changed the hash on our own system, say last week, because last week we recorded the hash on a public blockchain, and although we do have a blockchain of our own, we cannot change the record on that public blockchain. If it suddenly turns out to be different on our system, we will not be trusted. But if it is the same as on the public blockchain, then we can be trusted just as confidently and firmly as the public blockchain can. Meanwhile, we avoid spending enormous resources recording all our information on the public blockchain. According to the second law of thermodynamics, everything in nature moves in one direction. We get older, and we cannot grow younger. Chemical reactions only happen in one direction. Sodium reacts with chlorine to form a compound, but they will not separate again unless some outside force is applied. So from this standpoint, humanity's development also happens in a certain direction. Even if it's quasi-cyclical, it still takes place in a spiral. The overall growth of entropy must always be greater than zero. It would be interesting if these projects could be conducted every 10 years by humanity as a whole, so that we could see how much the development of intuition, consciousness, reason, and intelligence had changed. Quantities that today are not measurable on the whole. There are attempts at measuring intelligence using IQ tests, but these are very relative quantities, because they depend on the cultural environment. An extremely clever person who did not grow up in the cultural environment of the United States will simply not pass an IQ test, because it includes stories and tales that it's physically impossible for him to know. So, since there is really no method in existence today for measuring consciousness, reason, and intelligence, and we cannot say that humanity is developing in this direction or not, we just do not know. We judge by technological development, but technology is only one aspect of human development. You cannot say it is the quintessence, the essential, and only important aspect. We cannot yet make a judgment about that, because we do not have sufficient scientific data to evaluate this kind of factor. So then, this project represents the beginning of a whole new era. In fact, in scientific understanding and in the collection of scientific data to evaluate factors like this. In this case, it is one factor, intuition. Perhaps it will later be possible to broaden the spectrum of questions that can be investigated. But you always have to start somewhere. Even an imperfect beginning is still a beginning to the experiment. All my life, I have helped people reach agreements and understand each other better. And I sincerely believe that if we can understand each other, the world will be a better place. The only way you can understand another person is by understanding yourself. And once again, the app can help. Because it's so categorical, so black and white, it forces you to ask questions in a more precise way and seek out more correct answers. And it's just great to realize that you can always ask other people for their advice. These are not just your neighbors, but people on other continents. They may be able to help you with their inner intuition. Money is a very good human invention, and a very proper one. But placing it above all other values in your life leads to the situation that is happening now. People kill each other for money, and they double-cross each other for money. But when they get it, then what? People earn piles of money, and then they rush off to the church or the mosque. They build churches and mosques to try to atone for their sins. And this idiocy keeps repeating itself. If laws are being broken, but I can make money from it, then let it happen, since I will make my money. But once I have made it, I instantly start worrying that the next person will also make money by breaking the law. There will be an imbalance, and the blame cycle will start up again. I hope our app will help people understand what money is, and to realize that it's not the most important thing. Because the app will let them monetize their intuition, as well as the time that they spend using our app while getting in touch with their inner selves at the same time. I hope that people will be able to shift the emphasis a bit away from money and onto themselves. That way, they may realize that money is an equivalent for the energy we possess, and that if we use this energy correctly, we can make money. The most important thing is that the app should do no harm. Some people are of the opinion that Google does a certain amount of harm in part by removing the need to think for yourself. You can always just Google it instead. Since we are making an app that has so much more to do with existence than Google does, it could bring things that people are not ready for into our world. And who will be answerable if it does? In principle, I mean to include a death function in the app. If the universe, which has decided that this app is needed here and now, ever decides that this app is no longer needed, then it will switch itself off. But how will it know it's no longer needed? You can answer that question for yourself without even knowing what kind of question it is. And that seemed to me to be the right solution. We wanted to create a particular kind of system by giving it the properties of a living biological system, the ability to die or to go into hibernation. If we can get through to the public exactly what makes our app special, and if they really understand the point of it and start to use it actively, then as time goes by, we shall not be forcing people to trust their intuition all at once. Later, they will realize that intuition really does work. Nowadays, it is hard for people to make a decision because they do not have enough information. But by using our system and appealing to the subconscious, they will be able to obtain much more accurate answers to their questions and much more accurate predictions of how some system, organism, or other phenomenon will behave. For example, they already know that there is no life on Mars, but they're not sure about Europa. Why spend a whole pile of cash to fly to Europa when we can ask the subconscious? And when we have proved that it works, it will tell us, no, there is no life there, or else yes, there is. The value of this decision, to travel or not to travel such a great distance, is so big that it is a very serious project, and therefore requires very large resources. Would it be better for us to spend the money understanding our own planet? Or would it really be worth it to travel out there to Europa, a moon of Jupiter, and see what's going on out there? It might do a lot of good for civilization as a whole. In essence, what I see in the long term is intuitive prediction being a road back to ourselves by a way of help from without. A sort of evolution of consciousness by becoming once again the author of one's own life. But to feel like a creator, you first need to feel support from outside yourself. And when someone has fully experienced the support from outside, then he comes to feel more self-reliant, and he moves more deliberately, no longer relying on that external support or seeking it out. All our energy and all our attention is directed outwards. And the whole world is like that. Outwards, outwards, outwards. People lose their energy, and it makes them suffer as a result. They find life difficult. We are swamped by gigantic flows of information and the crazy rhythm of life. And so people try to tear themselves away from the city for the weekend, to go out into nature. This is an innate need that we have. We have not been designed to lose all of our energy by directing it all outwards. But right here, as users work with our app, they gradually start to turn their attention inwards, even here in the noisy city. They start to direct the energy they were losing inwards. The process does you nothing but good. Developing your intuition is only the start. You come to trust yourself more, to worry less about things that are outside your responsibilities, or even the ones that you are responsible for. This is an all-around plus, because you stop losing energy, you feel better, and your health improves. This is because all of our illnesses, in fact, are connected by loss of energy. Thus, the more people turn inwards, the more people look into themselves, the more beautiful and environmentally friendly life will be. For instance, when you ask successful people, including all of the stars, how they achieve such success, they will reply, "We always did what we loved." Find the thing that you love to do, and all will be well. People achieve success because they have always listened to themselves. They sought the inner flow that allows everything to just work out. And so every person, when they turn inwards to themselves and start listening to themselves, will realize that they will not do the things that they should not do, but they will busy themselves with the things they are destined to do. We think our app is just the springboard that humanity needs to leap into new spheres of consciousness.